This is Delta State, home to some of southern Nigeria's largest cities, from Warri and Iforo in the southwest to Sapele, Ughelli and Asaba. Millions of people are spread across the state, but despite that, a surprisingly large part of the northern delta remains sparsely populated. Some local governments across the state are home to hundreds of thousands of people, while others, despite covering far more land, have only a fraction of that population. In one of Nigeria's wealthiest and most populated cities, that imbalance is surprisingly difficult to explain at first glance. So why did the rest of Delta State fill up while the north never did? And what exactly is stopping more people from living there today? Now the answer starts with the river. The eastern flank of northern delta sits inside the Niger's floodplain, and every year the river reminds people who actually owns that land. In 2022, flooding submerged 65 of the 73 communities in Ndokwa East, displacing over 10,000 households and drowning farmlands, roads, and the local government secretariat itself. This wasn't just a one-time event. It happened in 2012, it happened again in 2024. When the area you live in floods on schedule, people don't build cities there. But the flood only explains the riverine east. Other parts of the north sit on much higher ground and in some places approaching 250 meters above sea level. So geography and flooding can't be the whole answer. The honest answer is that Delta State's economy was built around oil, and the oil is in the south. Warri got the refinery, the seaport, the oil companies, the Petroleum Training Institute. Ughelli got the gas plants. The money, the jobs, and therefore the roads all concentrated below that line, and the north got agriculture. For decades, the north's main function was to be driven through. The Benin-Asaba Expressway carries millions of people between Lagos and the southeast every year, straight across northern delta, and just very few people stop. Even Asaba tells you something. It's been the state capital since 1991, and for most of that time, it lived in the shadow of Onitsha across the river. Well, that's changing right now. Asaba today is one of the fastest growing cities in the region, new estates, new businesses, and an airport handling more traffic every year. Asaba's rise just proves that people will move to northern delta when there's something to move for. And here's the detail that captures the whole problem. Northern Delta isn't actually empty of investment. The Okpai Independent Power Plant began operating in 2005 at 480 megawatts and a second phase in 2022 at around another 500. Nearly a gigawatt of generation, and for 20 years the communities that host it have struggled with electricity. In 2026, residents marched to the government house in Asaba with one line: "We power the nation, yet we live in darkness." That's the Northern Delta story in one sentence. Things get built there, nothing gets built for there.
We are here to fight for Ndokwa nation. We want light. Light number one. We are living under abject poverty and we will not take it again.
Now, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to subscribe because I make videos exactly like this about African cities and the systems that shape them. Back to the video. Now, here's where things get interesting because after 40 years of being a corridor, the north is suddenly at the center of three of the biggest infrastructure stories in southern Nigeria. First, the internal spine. The Ughelli-Asaba road, the link between Delta's populated south and its empty north, is finally being dualized. All 143 kilometers of it. The governor says the journey from Asaba to Ughelli now takes under 2 hours. Second, the corridor itself. In March 2025, the federal government flagged off the full reconstruction of the 125-kilometer Benin-Asaba Expressway as a dual carriageway, privately financed under concession with a 30-month completion window. Adds the second Niger Bridge, which already lands on the Asaba line, and the northern delta stops being the road you survive and becomes the junction where the southwest, the south-south, and the southeast all meet. But the third development is one that could change everything, and it's not a roads development at all. There is currently a bill before the National Assembly to carve the 9 northern LGAs out of Delta entirely and create a new state. The state will be called Anioma State, and this isn't the usual state creation noise that goes nowhere. 97 senators have reportedly signed on above the constitutional threshold. The Senate President has publicly declared that Anioma State will be created with Asaba as its capital and says the President backs it. If that happens, the empty half of Delta becomes a state of its own, with its own government, its own budget, and its own reason for people to move there. And Nigeria has run this experiment before. Asaba itself was a quiet Niger-backed town up until 1991 when a state capital landed on it. Statehood is the single most reliable population magnet in Nigerian history, and this is a fact. But there's also a version of this story that doesn't end well, because a capital and 2 expressways don't repeal geography. The floodplain will still flood, and it's the same floodplain the new state will sit beside. Better roads through a region are not the same as an economy in the region. The Benin-Asaba Expressway could simply help people live faster to places with more economic opportunity. And Okpai is the one sitting in plain sight. Northern Delta already hosts a gigawatt of natural infrastructure, and the town next to it still struggles with electricity. If Anioma State becomes another enclave, a government island in Asaba surrounded by the same empty interior, then the map in 20 years will look exactly like the map today, just with a new line drawn on it. The land is there, the roads are finally coming. Even the state might be coming as well. What Northern Delta is still waiting on is a thing no bill can legislate, a reason for ordinary people to stop driving through and start staying. Northern Delta isn't empty because nobody wants it. It's empty because for 40 years, everything valuable about it, its oil, its gas and its location, was extracted and sent somewhere else. And whether these developments finally reverses that flow or just gives the emptiness a new name is a question the next 10 years will answer.